Hey guys, what is up? ScammerRevolts here. Today I am bringing you guys a tutorial video on VMware 15 showing you guys how to set up a virtual machine and just basically get it started for scam baiting because I've gotten so many comments about this, so I've decided to make a video version for it. Now, this video is going to be following the written version, which I have written on a TSU post, which will be linked in the top of the description below. That post will have all the downloads and everything that I will be using in this video. So please go to that post and use that for all the links and stuff that I'll be referencing in this video, and just as a guide for the video. So what you're going to need for this video is, of course, VMware, which will be posted on that post, and then a Windows 7 ISO. We're going to be using Windows 7 for this tutorial because I think Windows 7 is a lot better for scam baiting at the moment, especially with Windows 10. It's a lot more complicated to hide that it's a VM and stuff, especially since Windows 10 is actually able to detect if it's in a virtual machine. So we're going to be using Windows 7. It's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to get, especially just get started, get on the ground running. And then a couple things that you're going to need to make sure. You're going to need to make sure your computer can support a virtual machine, which means it needs to support virtualization. So if you go through the tutorial fine, you don't get any errors, that's good. But if you get errors saying VT virtualization or something like that, you're going to need to make sure that it's turned on in the BIOS or that your computer supports it at all, which can easily be found if you just Google search your computer name and then enable virtualization after that. There should be tons of tutorials on it. And then your processor and RAM. So on my setup, I have a Ryzen 7 2700X, and I have 32 gigs of RAM. So you're going to need to make sure that you have a good amount of processing cores and RAM. So what I recommend is, however many cores you have, I recommend using half. And then as of RAM, I recommend using just a little bit under half, because RAM can get pretty, it can get used up pretty fast, especially when you have, your software open to call scammers and all that type of stuff. So I recommend putting a little bit under half. So if you have 4 gigs of RAM, 1.5 gigs of RAM to the virtual machine should be good. And if you have 4 cores, 2 cores to the virtual machine should be good. But yeah, so that's all the prerequisites. Let's get started into this tutorial. So once you install VMware and it's all set up, you're going to come to a screen like this where it's going to give you a couple options here. You won't have this. You won't have these on the side here because you don't have any virtual machines yet. All right, so what you're going to need to do is click here, create a new virtual machine, and it's going to bring you to this wizard here. And we're going to do custom. And then right here, it's the hardware compatibility, basically with what version of VMware it is. But we're using VMware 15X and we're using Windows 7, so we're going to keep it on 15X. And then now here, guest operating system. So this is how we're going to install Windows 7. So we're going to choose I will install the operating system later. And now it's going to ask us to select the guest operating systems to specify what operating system we're going to install. So we're going to go with Microsoft Windows, and then we're going to go down here, and it's going to bring in this big list of different versions. Now, if you're using Windows 7 Windows anything 64-bit on your main computer, choose Windows 7 64. But if you're on a 32-bit version of Windows, you're going to want to use Windows 7. And that also means with the version that you download from the post that I have on TSU, you're going to want to make sure you get the 32-bit version of Windows 7. Because if you get the 64-bit, but your main OS is on 32-bit, you're not going to be able to run the virtual machine. Then we're going to click next. And now it's asking for a name. This only really matters to yourself to identify it. If I can spell that right. To identify it as yourself, and then the file path, so where you want to store the virtual machine. Now for this, I recommend putting it on a separate drive if you have one. If you don't have one, it's fine having it on your main drive. It just makes it a little bit faster, and sometimes things can get clogged up if you have tons of programs open and you're also running a virtual machine and stuff. So I do recommend that, but if you really you can't, it's perfectly fine having it on your main drive. Then we're going to go to next. For firmware type, we're going to do BIOS. Processor configuration. Okay, so this is going to come to where I was talking about earlier about your processing cores. Number of processors, we're going to keep at 1. Number of cores per processor now. So this is what's going to matter here. So if you have 4 cores on your main, I recommend 2. If you have 8 cores, I recommend 4. If you have 16, 8. So half of everything. I mean, once you get past 16, 8's really the max you're going to need. But yeah, I recommend having half of everything. So I'm going to put 4 for mine. And then we're going to go to next. And then now here is the memory part of it. So like I said, if you have 4 gigs of RAM, I recommend like this, like 1.448 megabytes, which is just between 2 gigs and 1 gig. And if you have like 8 gigs, I recommend 4 gigs to the virtual machine, which I'm going to put 4. I have 32, but the virtual machine for scam baiting really doesn't need that much. So we're just going to get it like close we can. Like, there we go, 4. And then we're going to do next. Network type, we're going to leave this as default. Choose next. I/O controllers, we're also going to leave this default. Next. Disk type, we're going to leave this default. Next. And then this, we're going to make sure, select the disk, make sure it's on create new virtual disk. You don't have an existing disk or anything, so we're going to create a new one. And then here's going to be your disk size. So this, you can make this however big you want. Just make sure you have enough space. So however big your hard drive is, however much space you have free, do not go past that limit of how much you actually have. So I'm just going to leave it on 60 for this tutorial virtual machine. And then I recommend doing split disk into multiple files. Allocating all the disk space now, wouldn't recommend that because it's just immediately going to take up all that space. Stored in a single file, it's going to be a lot slower. It's just not going to be... It's a lot better storing it in multiple files. Even like it says here, it's going to be easier to move it and stuff. But yeah, once the disk gets bigger, it'll slow down. But it's a lot better keeping it in multiple files. So we're going to do next. And now the disk files. So this one, just leave this the same. It's just going to be the name and stuff. So yeah, just leave this the same. And then it's going to go over everything you did, so you can look through this, make sure everything is to how you set it, of your disk space, RAM, cores, all that stuff, and then you just click finish. Okay, so now it has created our virtual machine. So you're going to come up to a page like this. It's going to show you all the details of your virtual machine, the RAM and all that stuff. So now we're going to need to set it up so we can actually install our ISO file. So we're going to go here, and you see under this devices menu, we're going to click CD/DVD. But if you cannot see this, you can also go up to here, edit virtual machine settings, which will pop up the same page that this would have popped up. And we're going to go to CD/DVD, and then we're going to click use ISO image file. And then you're going to want to go through and select that image file. Okay, so now once you have it selected, you can just click OK. And then we're just going to power on this virtual machine. The resolution is going to change a bit because we haven't set up any drivers or anything. We haven't really got anything installed. So now you can just go through the exact same install that you would on any computer, which I will go through it with you guys. So we're just going to click install, just go through it like regular. Choose your version right here. So we're just going to choose Home Basic OEM. Accept the terms. We're going to do custom, then just next, and that will start the install. So it's going to copy all your files. It's just like setting it up on an actual computer. It's going to go through the whole Windows installation. When it's done with it, it's going to prompt you to install, well, do updates and all that, type your name, and then you could go through installing programs, doing all that type of stuff. Yeah, other than that, I hope this video was informational. I will also have a link below to my friend's video, Devin from Stop Phone Scammers, on how to hide BIOS information on VMware. You can tell him I sent you. It's a good video. It's short and it's to the point, about how to hide your BIOS information so scammers can't see that when they're looking through your computer. But yeah, other than that, like I said, I hope this video was informational. I hope it helped you out, to have it in video format. Like I said, if there's anything that you didn't get, you can ask me a question in the comments, or you can also check the posted version on TSU, which it's the same thing. It has images and all that stuff, so you could go through step by step and go to the part that you really didn't get to figure it out. Yeah, but like I said, if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them. And yeah, other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful, and I hope you all have an amazing day or night, wherever you are in the world. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.